welcome to Galați and to Danubius University. We are so pleased and happy and honored to have you here. And we should also be grateful for meeting in person after such a long time, which was so difficult and at the same time maybe interesting. You know, the concept, I mean, don't say bad, but say interesting. Yeah, this conference, Two Democratic Societies in Transition, exploring the dynamics of a post-COVID world, has been specifically organized to celebrate the 10th anniversary from the signing of the Joint Declaration on Strategic Partnership for the 21st century between Romania and the United States of America. Romania and the United States have enjoyed a formal diplomatic connection for over 140 years. And the two nations reaffirmed the significance of their relation with the signing of the joint declaration 10 years ago. Both countries have democratic forms of government and open economies, and they also have common membership in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which acknowledges their shared interests as military allies. As they are emerging from the pandemic, both Romania, a country with a relatively recent history of the democratically elected form of government, and the United States, which has a long history of democratic governance, are facing and will face significant economic, social, and environmental changes. The topics to be presented, which transcend geographical borders, will be debated and analyzed during this conference. Experts from the academic world, government, corporate, and media sectors, both from Europe and America, as well as Romanian and foreign students, will share their observations, opinions, and insights with us, who are both in person here and online. This conference also represents a symbolic exit from the pandemic, as it is the first in-person gathering of academics since COVID-19 started to affect all nations around the globe. However, as I have already mentioned, in order to have a maximum engagement, our conference will operate in a hybrid format that will also allow virtual participation. The purpose of this international conference is to provide a forum for exchanging ideas, research and business outcomes, and technical achievements. We should also mention that our conference, Two Democratic Societies in Transition, exploring the dynamics of a post-COVID world 2021, is a scientific event organized by Danubius University with St. Mary's College of Maryland, the National Public Honors College, California State University, San Bernardino University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, University of Southern Indiana, University of Richmond, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. And we thank you very much for this. And now, it is my pleasure to give the floor to Professor Andy Pushka, the president of Danubius University.
30 years ago, my father and I had a dream. that of setting up a university in this region. It wasn't a night dream, but a bright daydream, a conscious one with open eyes. It wasn't easy for us, but Danubius University was then established, and afterwards it was developed and consolidated step by step. Being a private university, we needed a certified successful model, and in this regard, USA represented the ideal place from where we got our inspiration. After the Second World War and after the instauration of the communist regime in Romania, a phrase prone to bring hope used to circulate: "The Americans are coming." Romanian people waited for salvation or liberation to come from the USA. And some of the people wished, of course, to live the American dream. Unfortunately, as it's well known, history with its intricacies made possible for the Americans to come much later. However, this was a passive manner of approaching the problem. In fact, it was also needed for us to go towards the Americans, to meet them in their environment, to see how American-bound excellence get birth and how it works. After the revolution in 1989, this became possible, but not all the Romanian institutions hasted into taking this kind of step. As soon as possible, driven by curiosity and by the dream mentioned before, I visited a few private universities in the United States of America and tried to assimilate as much knowledge as possible about the way those institutions works. I found new information, fascinating details. But at the time, it happened to me what happened to everyone who visits a city for the first time, without being accompanied by a guide. I missed lots of important details. I missed the meaning of certain moments and also got lost sometimes. It was clear that I need a guide. And this guide came up because luck made it possible for me to meet a wonderful human being from whom I learned a lot about private universities in the USA. My friend, Steve Michael, who for a couple of years now has been willingly sharing with us his rich experience as a professor and manager. Thank you, Steve, for being with us. Recently, we were glad to attract alongside in the Danubian community a new friend, Professor William Harp, who generously accepted to become the rector of Danubius University of Galați. Professor Harvey, a distinguished figure in the higher education and research in the USA, was impressed by our institution, portraying it through an overwhelming metaphor, the diamond on the Danube. We are deeply grateful for the shown interest and for our active involvement built from the first very moment. For those of our guests who don't know us that well, we could introduce ourselves by saying the following. On the spatial axis, we are physically located between Galați and Brăila, two major cities of Romania, from the very beginning. to develop a university campus meant to serve the Galați-Brăila area. The union of two cities into one is an old project of us. Our activity, through fruitful collaboration and trustworthy partnership, has extended to the east, in the immediate vicinity, the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine, to the Near East, Turkey, the Middle East, Israel, and the Far East, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, China, and so on. As well as to the west, in the European West, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, Bulgaria, Greece, through the Erasmus Plus program, but also in the transatlantic West, United States of America. We are part of the European Union, but we also have friendly, collaborative relation with other non-EU countries. Actually, they are geographically European countries. Russia, the largest country in Eurasia, Serbia, Albania, Macedonia, etc. We are permanently on the move on the international environment, in the water we swim into and where we feel at ease. Since our essence is both fluid, appropriate to adaptation, and crystallized, indicating stability and reliability. Our name is Danubius, the Latin name on the Danube River. It is well known that the Danube is moving, but is also stable and constant. Its water flows, always new, always young, as the vitality of our students. But the course itself remained the same, or almost the same, for a long time. Although its bed can deepen, its shores can be widened. We try to practice the performance management. That is why the educational and research areas we want to be the best are not many. Law, economics, communication, international relations, psychology, informatics, applied sciences. Virtually, we are everywhere. And we put the virtual at work for the benefit of the real. We are a university not only open, but also online. We are international. While traveling anywhere in the world, we carry some landmarks with us, a compass, where the cardinal points are the values we believe in. Truth, excellence, respect, and responsibility. While navigating, we also keep in mind the temporal axis, but mainly in terms of value. We constantly search for the polar star, that is innovation. But we never forget our home. Our Ithaca is tradition. The respect for tradition also explains the excellent relation we had and still have with the founder of our university, Professor Danubius. In addition, irrespective of the place where we are and irrespective of the universality of the issues we study or teach, our voice is, without ostentation, truly Romanian. Achieving excellence in the requirement that keeps us on the top and help us self-improve not just on the line of education, but also of research. We have research centers, more and more visible through their products. We have scientific journals for each of our domain, increasingly ranked, indexed in the numerous international databases. We organize international conferences of higher academic prestige. We have dreams, as it is natural, but we are still in touch with reality. We are entrepreneurs. We try to meet, through our study programs, the needs and worries to the community we are part of. We have partnerships with the business environment. It is not only about pragmatism here, it's also assuming social responsibilities, wishing to contribute to the public or common good. We are open, and we know that this can only be done through efficient communication. A communication that seeks harmony and agreement. It is a lesson we have learned and applied in our own academic community. Teachers and students are considered members of a single family, Danubius family. For our students, we show concern, a parental care, and to their needs, we show flexibility. We encourage freedom of speech. It is well known that American culture has part of its roots in the Occidental European culture and in its values, but it has also created, in its turn, new fruits that we enormously appreciate today. This is due to Americans' courage to reconstruct in a lot of areas and in a lot of regards. These kinds of special American elements are also visible in the themes of the international conference we have the pleasure to host today. Authentic democracy, freedom of speech, the right to education, tolerance, and respect for diversity are concepts that, thanks to American contributors, didn't remain theoretical, but entered the world, reconstructing reality, giving it a new look. They were successfully applied both in the USA and in many other countries. For the question, which came first, the egg or the hen? Biologically offered, among others, the following answer, borrowed from Samuel Butler, the writer. A hen is only an egg's way of making another egg. We could infer, without kidding, that the university is the manner in which knowledge generates knowledge, the way in which knowledge is multiplied and disseminated. Obviously, the means for doing it are diverse. We considered that the American way is indeed a successful one, certified over time, and that it suits us best. Our dream from the very beginning was to share with our people, through the Danubius University, as much quality knowledge as possible, to help them grow and thus to contribute to the modernization and development of our country, Romania. In this regard, keeping the proportions, the way we dreamt and still dream about, the well-being of our people is not far from the extraordinary vision belonging to Martin Luther King when he uttered the immortal, "I have a dream." Thank you.
Bună ziua to my Romanian colleagues. Good afternoon to my American friends. And welcome to everyone who's joining us in person or online for this international conference on two democratic societies in transition, exploring the dynamics of a post-COVID world. You can tell that when we initially sat down some 7 months ago to begin planning this event, that we did so with some unrealized optimism about where the world would be today in regards to the impact of the pandemic. With the production and distribution of vaccines beginning to take place at that time and before the appearance of the Delta variant, we had hoped that by now much of the world would be free from the scourge of COVID-19 and that we would be traveling and interacting as usual. Obviously, those wishes have not come to fruition, and the specter of a post-COVID world is something that we are all hoping for, but certainly not experiencing at the present moment. Travel remains restricted, and in some cases even prohibited, as many of our friends and colleagues from the U.S. who wanted to join us here in Galați have been prevented by the universities from attending for perfectly understandable reasons of caution and concern for their well-being. Despite the constraints on travel, though, we do have an American delegation that I'd like to acknowledge by asking them to stand for just a moment. The delegation is led by my dear friend, Dr. Ronald Crutcher, who you'll be hearing from shortly. Through this blended format that we are using, this hybrid format, we will see and hear from several scholars and experts from both America and Romania who could not be with us in person, but who still felt that it was important to share their expertise with us on the very important set of topics that we will be discussing within our overall theme. Romania and the United States of America are indeed two democratic societies in transition. The histories of these countries are very different, of course, but they have shared diplomatic connections for over 140 years, so the relationship is an enduring one. Today, as the leaders of both nations struggle to move their agendas forward in the face of serious opposition, it is both appropriate and timely that on this 10th anniversary of the signing of the Joint Declaration on Strategic Partnership for the 21st Century between the two nations, that an examination should be conducted of their current circumstances and their future prospects. We have assembled a world-class collection of present and future scholars and leaders to guide us through this process. Out of this serious endeavor, we hope will emerge some insightful analyses and creative approaches that can be applied to the variety of issues and concerns that we will be examining. Against the backdrop of worldwide disease, it would be encouraging if we're able to discern a ray of hope or light on the topics under discussion that might help in some small way to offset the malaise that we all struggle to escape. I do want to share with you a lighter moment that I experienced yesterday as I was out walking, when I saw a young man who was wearing a t-shirt with a very interesting message. It said, "This is no time to be sober." I laughed when I saw it, just as you did. But when I put my academic hat on, I realized that this is just the time to be sober. Sober in the sense of being analytical, reflective, and thoughtful. Because the opposing forces that we face as we attempt to maintain and sustain democratic principles and practices are real. And in some cases, and in some places, they appear to be gaining strength and acceptance, aided and abetted by a tsunami of misinformation and disinformation. Here at Danubius University, we intend to become the institution that bridges the East and the West. And as we go about the process of developing leaders for the next generation, we recognize the significance of this moment in time, when challenges to the prevailing social order are being presented from many directions at once. We are an academic institution. committed to inquiry and discovery, to the pursuit of truth and reason through teaching, research, and service for the greater good of all humanity. Even so, I happen to agree with the American scholar William Tierney when he argues that, and I quote, "Universities ought to be essential organizations when it comes to the protection of democracy, and it is no longer viable for academics to remain aloof from the challenges that confront society as if we were hermetically sealed from the problems that exist," unquote. By hosting this conference, we are demonstrating that Danubius University will not shy away from the responsibility to both defend and critique democracy with all of its flaws and shortcomings, so that the peoples of Romania and America can fully participate in creating futures that are more inclusive and more equitable than our past have been. At our institution, this diamond on the Danube, we embrace our opportunity and accept our responsibility as a private university in a democratic nation to commend the state of affairs in the society, both in our home country and our adopted one when it is appropriate, and to challenge that very same state of affairs when it is necessary. Quoting Tierney once again, I want to say that I completely agree with his observation that, quote, "In a contested age such as the one we are currently in, we have to move away from the idea that the university is simply a venue for the study of ideas removed from the everyday challenges that confront us," unquote. So, as we engage in our interactions over these next few days, let us do so with common purpose and shared resolve, celebrating the dynamism and resilience of the human spirit. I'm grateful to those American higher education institutions and organizations that have joined us as co-sponsors in this endeavor. They're listed in the conference program, and they've already been identified as one previously. But I want to acknowledge that this group of institutions represent a broad range of institutional types and geographic location. They extend from one coast to another, and they point out to us that there are a number of institutions that we want to partner with in the future to celebrate the connections between Romania and America. We certainly hope that we will be able to continue to work cooperatively with these institutions and others as we go forward. I also want to thank our local partner, IPA Galati, for their generous financial support. And finally, I want to express my appreciation to all of the members of the Conference Planning Committee who have worked so diligently to move this impressive event from the planning stage into the action phase. Welcome once again, everyone. Please accept my sincere best wishes for a productive and inspiring conference.